Hello and welcome to the special report for the F1 MyDriver Career mode ahead of its pre-season testing for Season 8 F1 2022. Going into this final season of the series, the Formula 1 cars this year are debuting with crazy new updates for this year, with FI and teams agreeing upon brand new V10 hybrids introduced into Formula 1 now. And along with extra horsepower, all the Formula 1 cars on this year's grid have nearly doubled the downforce of last year's cars. The FI have ensured though to take care with dirty air and drag, and have still made certain restrictions to the cars to ensure slipstreaming is still effective. The paddock expects these cars to be breaking every single record in the history books in Formula 1 to every single circuit we go to. And speaking of the circuits, a brand new calendar format has been ratified for the 2022 season, including 3 sprint round races at the USA Grand Prix, the British Grand Prix, and the Bahrain Grand Prix. These 3 rounds will use the short layout of the circuits available at these countries, and points will be awarded to every single driver taking part in those sprint races on a sliding scale for 20 points for the win and 1 for last place. So moving on then to the actual pre-season action here at the Circuit de Catalunya here in testing, and the first team to break cover and go on and track was the BMW Motorsport Williams team. This team, if you remember from last year, were just known as BMW Williams, with BMW as a title sponsor for Williams in 2021, but they've stuck to their word, and so for this final season of MyDriver, they've come in and taken over the team and the works BMW engine in the back of that car. They've chosen to stick with their team leader Sergio Perez as a driver, but they've lost the services of Esteban Ocon, and so instead have signed the calm head of Valtteri Bottas. Of course, last year, remember, this team spent most of the year just trying to save money and secure funding for this year to really give it a good go in the championship. And so with 2 level heads in the cockpit of their car, they're hoping to take this BMW Works car maybe even to the top. We mentioned the Frenchman Esteban Ocon there, who's no longer driving for that team because he's signed to the French outfit Renault Sports GP in their blue and yellow livery. This year, Renault are finally hoping they can make a solidified attack on the World Drivers' Championship, with Esteban Ocon signed to the team and retaining Jack Aitken after some impressive results last year. Renault learnt a lot last year, and this year it looks like they've really stepped up in the aerodynamics department, and their engine should be pretty much on par maybe with the likes of BMW. Speaking of engines then, the absolute powerhouse in that department over the last couple of years, DHL Audi Sport GP retain their driver lineup of Carlos Sainz and Max Verstappen, and why wouldn't they? Both of them world champions, Max Verstappen in 2019 and Carlos Sainz in 2020, and they might have seriously been challenging for the championship last season if it weren't for a string of bad luck and poor reliabilities in the races. But the paddock believes, and it was pretty clear on track in pre-season testing, that once again Audi are the top dogs when it comes to engine power, but again they might not be so great in the aerodynamics department. But with the highest levels of downforce we've seen on Formula 1 cars in this entire series and universe, it's going to be a question of if that engine power this time round is enough to negate the time lost in the corners. Jaguar have had a bit of a roller coaster ride in Formula 1 so far, but they're hoping they can land on their feet in this new era of Formula 1 with the V10 hybrid, and they've retained their 2016 world champion Stoffel Vandoorne to lead the team, and have surprisingly signed on Nico Kari, the one-time race winner at the Italian Grand Prix a couple of seasons ago, to their team. You remember Nico Kari was in the Red Bull team last year before he was put to the sidelines in that entire deal between Hülkenberg, Haas and Aarava, but Nico Kari has proved himself enough for Jaguar to sign him on alongside Stoffel Vandoorne. Many believe this year though Kari will no longer have any place to hide, and Vandoorne may well put him in his place. Moving into some more big news in Formula 1. Over the winter, Honda announced they would no longer be in Formula 1 from 2022, and that left McLaren in a big pickle. McLaren have been with Honda ever since the series began in 2015 and was struggling to find a customer engine. But in stepped the team we just mentioned before, Jaguar Formula 1 team, looking to find a second team to help engine development, and also in a marketing opportunity that they couldn't pass up, they've allowed McLaren to use Jaguar engines for this year. McLaren have departed with Castrol as a title sponsor, of this year signed up with Mobil 1 to become Mobil 1 McLaren Racing, with a Jaguar logo displayed on their engine covers. The papaya orange car this year will be once again steered by Daniel Ricciardo and Lando Norris. McLaren expressed confidence in this lineup, and despite it being a tough time, especially for Lando Norris last year, they believe this year's car should be a lot more drivable, and so finally Lando might be able to just show his skills finally against Daniel Ricciardo. Both Jaguar and McLaren still appear to be struggling though to match the top pace as they were at the end of last year, and it'll be a case of if they can bring updates fast enough this season to catch back up. And speaking of struggles, they may have been considered a top team in Formula 1 in the last 2 years, but Haas Chevrolet have come into this season with a bit of a handful of a car. The Chevrolet V10 looks to be like a good package in the back of the car, but they seem to have been too over-ambitious with their chassis, and they've been struggling for pace throughout pre-season. They retain Pascal Wehrlein and welcome back Nico Hülkenberg, who was originally in the Haas Chevrolet team at the beginning of last year, but of course, as we mentioned, went to Red Bull briefly in that swap deal. The other Chevrolet power team on the grid, though, might have completely different fortunes. Red Bull Racing Chevrolet rock up to 2022 with a great package and once again prove that Red Bull are really the kings of aero, as once again their chassis looks very strong. They retain their loyal driver Pierre Gasly, who narrowly lost out in the championship fight to Aarava last year, and have signed back their former Italian driver Antonio Giovinazzi, of course Gasly's old GP2 teammate back in the day, to be back in the team. Christian Horner's Red Bull was licking his lips in a press conference earlier, talking about the lineup, saying Gasly and Giovinazzi should make a great pairing. Of course, those two are very familiar with each other, and Giovinazzi was looking forward to being back in Red Bull after a frustrating year in Ferrari last year, where he had a lot of unlucky races and poor reliability. Mentioning reliability there, that may be quite a concern in the first part of this season for Monster Mercedes Racing, who retain the German 5-time world champion Sebastian Vettel and also the junior German driver Mick Schumacher. The Monster Mercedes Racing car certainly has tried to step it up in the aero department, but their engine is a little bit lacking on power and reliability overall. Drivability apparently was a major issue according to Sebastian Vettel, and is hoping a scheduled update for round number 3 of the season can really help their issues. And that's not all the news for Mercedes, because going into this year, it was agreed upon with shareholders of Monster Energy and Mercedes that they are going to be abandoning their B-team strategy and have sold off their team, Monster Rehab. That'll see the unfortunate absence of one-time race winner and female Formula 1 driver Sophia Flourish and George Russell, who was pipped to maybe be making his way up the ranks in Mercedes. They want to focus on what is clearly going to be a difficult season for them in this new V10 hybrid era. And so with that, left an open spot on the F1 grid, and the FI was listening to many offers, including even some from Porsche or Lamborghini, but ultimately the FI accepted a much more grounded offer from Alfa Romeo. You may remember Scuderia Alfa Romeo was in Formula 1 as a Ferrari B team for a few years and departed last year. Well, they're back. Ferrari paused their driver academy program with Alfa Romeo in Formula 1 to focus on their title fight, but they are coming into this season as the reigning Constructors' champions and couldn't pass on the opportunity of having an open slot to bring back their B team this year. They bring in Antonio Fuoco, who ended off last year really strongly with the Williams team, and for the first time in a while can bring in a brand new junior driver into the ranks of Formula 1 in the form of Callum Ilott. From statements they made to the press, Alfa Romeo believe they might struggle initially at the first part of this season, but with Ferrari's help and expertise, and once again aligning themselves as a B team, that they should be able to climb up to low points finishes by the end of the season. Of course, when Alfa Romeo were here in the past in the Formula 1 world of MyDriver, they have had some exceptional surprising results, and so you can never write off the smaller Italian team to pull something out the bag. And so finally, last but not least, Scuderia Ferrari unveiled their brand new challenger all in red and announced their brand new driver to replace the outgoing Antonio Giovinazzi in the form of the triple world champion aarava. It's reported to be quite a bonkers and lucrative $60 million deal that only lasts 1 year, as aarava has announced that he will be retiring at the end of this season at the age of 26. Aarava swapped from Jaguar to Haas last year mid-season, but on purpose had his contract run out at the end of last year. He said his intentions were pretty clear in his mind, already made up last year, that he wanted to come to Scuderia Ferrari and end his career here in red. After so many seasons and so many races of fighting the cars in red, they'll finally be driving for one and trying to get them a Drivers' World Championship to maybe match the constructors they got last year. Alongside the triple world champion is Charles Leclerc, who was retained for Ferrari from last year. You remember, of course, Charles Leclerc was the one who spearheaded Ferrari's late title challenge, and although it didn't end up with a driver's title for Charles himself, he was the main cause for Ferrari winning their first Constructors' Championship in the MyDriver universe. It's a strong lineup and a strong looking car, however in pre-season testing the Ferrari was also giving aarava a handful in terms of drivability. Although indeed for every driver this season they've expressed how much of a monster these brand new 2022 regulations have made these cars, and so everyone might be struggling in the first part of this season to get to grips with their new cars. So there you have it, the class of F1 2022 driving what are some exceptional V10 hybrid higher downforce Formula 1 cars, and they certainly are going to be record beaters. As here we are, ahead of round 1, an exclusive onboard lap around the Circuit of Catalunya in pre-season testing.
this session so far.
So guys, that's going to conclude the pre-season video then for the F1 MyDriver Career Mode Season 8, the final season of this series. Guys, if you are excited for F1 2022 in the MyDriver universe, smash that like button. Let me know what you're thinking about the driver lineups in the comments below, any of the team news, and also the new 2022 regulations for the V10s and the higher downforce. Pop any thoughts in the comments below, and let me know how hyped you guys are for round number 1, which is going to be uploaded tomorrow on the channel. Tomorrow evening, not too sure specific time, but just around tomorrow evening UK time, Season 8. If you're on your own here, do get subscribed for weekly full-on content. I've been aarava, have a day, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.